Tonight, a community is shocked as a person has been charged for the deaths of 11 children.
Charlie explained to the police that the killer opened the cage door and just smiled at him, and then grabbed him by the leg as he started to laugh. Charlie told the police he started to cry and yell for help as he was being dragged out of the cage. He said he saw what happened to the other boy in the cage and knew the same would happen to him next. Charlie went on to explain how the killer dragged him by the leg across the warehouse, and as he got closer to this one area, he could smell the rotten meat again, but this time stronger. He said he kept trying to kick and yell and begged him to let him go, but the killer just kept walking and talking to himself. Charlie went on to tell the police the killer dragged him to this one area of the warehouse where he saw a white dummy with both its arms missing. But he soon realized there was blood dripping from it, and that the dummy was actually the boy in the cage from earlier. Charlie described being paralyzed by fear, unable to move or scream. His mind was consumed by the overwhelming thought that he was next, fearing he might never see his parents, dog, or school friends again. He said the man picked him up and placed him on a metal counter that was covered with meat and blood. He said all he could do was just look at the man scared out of his mind as the killer just smiled at him and mumbled, "It'll only hurt a little bit." While reaching for the knife, the man paused, catching the distant sound of a glass bottle breaking and the laughter of a group of teenagers. He explained how the killer for a split second looked over to see what the noise was, and that's when he pushed the killer back and ran. He explained to the cops how he ran through the warehouse until he found an exit door that led to a grassy field. Charlie said he ran as fast as he could, and at one point, he could even hear the killer's footsteps behind him, but he never looked back to check. Charlie had run for more than 5 miles, weaving through a field and a dense forest, eventually reaching the gas station where he encountered a police officer. After Charlie's statement, the police officer and the others hurried to the eerie Sterling warehouse. They recognized it well, a place notorious among cops for teens throwing parties or causing mischief. By the time officers arrived at the warehouse, the killer had already left, but the cops did discover one thing, and that was the boy with the missing arms. The case of the missing children would go unsolved for 3 cold years. The officers did everything they could to try and solve it, but nothing. They even traced his IP address from the Roblox game, but it only led to a dead end as he had used a VPN. Cops were left confused on who had committed these terrible crimes until one day technology had finally caught up. The team was able to run his picture through a recovery software and come up with the identity of the killer. Cops were able to identify him as Mr. Zhernikov. The police swiftly surrounded his house and arrested him. Adding to the unsettling nature of the situation, neighbors who considered Mr. Zhernikov a kind neighbor were shocked by the news.
When he was in his right mind, he was a good neighbor, but he would go off at times.
The real surprise, however, unfolded during his interrogation, revealing shocking statements.
I don't regret what I did because the world is a cruel place.
Mr. Zhernikov was charged for the murder of 11 children and now serves life in a maximum prison. To this day, there's rumors that he committed more murders, but not enough evidence was ever found to charge him for those heinous crimes. Moral of the story is, never tell anyone online where you live. Stay safe.